Hello, hello. Welcome to today's virtual story time. I am so excited to welcome you in. So you are just turning in live. Go ahead and share this as we continue this conversation. This is going to be an amazing time to get to know our author for this month. As I see people come in, just say hello in the chat. If you have any comments, any questions, again, pose them because we will be able to offer it throughout today. So I want to first introduce myself and just what this platform is, and then we're going to jump into our conversation. I am Jarima Gorham. I am the founder and executive director of Burst Into Books, and our mission is just to share Black stories. I believe that it is so important for us to have spaces in which we're able to tell our stories, spaces for children and for adults to be able to learn how to be able to be preservers of history, because I believe that's what storytelling is. And then to have this platform to be able to introduce you to books that you should have in your home library. So today we have an amazing author that I'm going to introduce you to. I'm going to have her introduce herself. But as you are coming in, as I said, this is going to be a conversation that is virtual yet still personal. So if you have comments or questions that you would like to pose during this conversation, I will bring them out throughout this interview. And what I also love about our virtual story times is that we get to hear the story live from the author themselves. So we will also have a live reading during this time as well. So I want to go ahead and let's go to our background and introduce our author for today. You have the stage. We can't hear you, Tristen. It's I
Oh,
think.
can you hear me now?
Oh, girl, you got it.
Okay, great. I was saying good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Tristen Brenaè Johnson. I use she, her, hers pronouns, and I am an author. I currently live in Houston, Texas, and I do diversity and inclusion work for my professional career. So I'm a trainer, I'm a curriculum developer, but I also do team development as well. Again, I'm an author. I'm an adjunct professor. I'm funny. Like, I just have a few different things about me. I love Beyonce. Hope y'all picked her album up on Apple Music. Act 2 is out now. Excited to be here today. And so to share my book with you. I don't know how far you want me to go before you want me to read the book, but would you like me to introduce the book? Okay, perfect.
No, not yet, not yet. So during this time, I think it's important, like one to like learn the background, right? So I put background here because I do believe that learning about your background is going to lead to us understanding why you wrote this book. So if there's anything about your background, tell us a little bit about your maybe your influences that led you to today. Hello, Danielle. Hello, Wanda. We saw some hellos, but yes, share a little bit about your story that leads to the story that you wrote.
Yes. So when I was in college, I double majored in journalism and African American studies. And so my book is called Black History Explorer, My Name, Our Power. And so I've always been like just a learner of Black history, if you will. It's just always been my thing. But growing up, I used to write creatively. I used to win like young authors contests in elementary school. So I have always enjoyed writing, but I never took it professional or published my own book, personally published my own book, a children's book, if that, until last year. And I have an academic book that I published about Black women, diversity practitioners in historically white institutions. And that's based on my research for my Ph.D. But this book, writing children's books have always been just a wonderful thing for me. It's brought out my creativity. And so the background of this book, I had a baby last year. I had a son in February.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So he is 1 year old. He is 13 months. And so the book is dedicated to my son. It talks about the history of his name. He's named after um, 8 different men in his family named Dwayne. And he's also named after my father, Trent. And so we wanted to share with him how he got his name, the origin of his name, but also understanding how important his name is in terms of kinship, in terms of the Black community. And so the book also teaches children how Black people in the U.S. got their names after emancipation. How we took our power back, and so hence the title, Black History Explorer, My Name, Our Power. So that's just a little background of the book.
I love that. So first, I love all of that. I think it's so important, right? Like, so when we talk about storytelling, our names definitely tell stories, and I think it's so important for those who are listening, not just who may be from the African diaspora, right, but also may not, to understand that names have history, they have meaning. Even when I think about growing up, how you like look like you bring an honor to your name, right? To your last
Mhm.
name or whatever it is. Like similar to me and my family, James is a very pivotal name. My son, I have a son as well. His name is James. His dad is James. Both of his grandfathers' names are James. My nephew is
Mhm.
James. Like a name that's very common in my
Yeah,
family. And because of that, it's like a lot of responsibility and honor that comes with it as well. And so I think
absolutely.
that I loved when I saw the title of your book, because I'm like, man, that's so true that for some of us, the name really is allow us to be able to preserve our legacy and
Mhm.
be able to tell our story. Like my son is able to say that, like, hey, both my grandfathers are James. My dad is, I'm a third, right?
Yep.
Like just being able to have pride that goes with that.
Absolutely. And my son, he's an author on this book. He's only one, but I wanted to make sure he got author credits on this book, right? This book is really dedicated for him. And so I really wanted to also leave him a legacy.
I love it. So titles, we've talked about the titles, but I also think the imagery and the all the illustrations and books are so important, and that's what I love talking to authors about as well. So the book cover, can you speak a little bit about why you chose the book cover to be the way that it finalized as?
Yeah, so it starts with me telling you a little bit of background on my illustrator. Her name's Sabrina.
Mm,
I found Sabrina on the internet, and she lives in Romania. So
wow.
she's a white girl from Romania. I found her on Upwork. She had done children's books in the past for customers or for clients, and so I had to coach her on, I want you to do some research on Black people in the U.S., right? Because she's in Romania, she really has no idea. So do a little research on Black people in Romania. In the U.S. Do some research on Black cartoons and storybooks by Black authors, and look how intricate our details are. Look how beautiful we are as Black people. Our features are unique. We have we're all different shades, all different shapes. Our hairs are different. So take a look at that. And so then I gave her pictures of me and my family who are in this book. So my son, even though he's a baby, I had her imagine him as an 8-year-old boy, because he's about 8 years old in the book. And I sent her pictures of my partner's family and my partner. And I said, I want you to make some cartoons or caricatures out of us, as the main characters of this book. And she snapped, like she did her thing. And so the background, again, so the colors are intentional, right? The colors are intentional. So the green, black, and orange colors, even though the Pan African flag is black, red, and green, but I chose orange for a more like earthy, poppy look. And then the background is Africa, but it's in the shape of a black power fist,
Mm,
for a reason, right? Like I'm talking about how, well, I'll read the book and you'll see how I kind of connect the continent of Africa to the US, but also how we are proud, like Black Power. So I wanted to connect that to here. And, I saw these images all over the place. And so I'm like, this is perfect. So that's how we kind of got the cover and all of the beautiful artwork that you will see in the book. My illustrator took her time, took all of the colors, took even down to, hey, I want these books on the shelf to say James Baldwin, Maya Angelou, and like just some like little subtle things to put in the book. And she killed it.
I loved it. So something I want to pull out of that is that because a lot of times people who watch this, whether live or later, they are either inspired. Like I had a book discussion with booksellers last Saturday with a room full of inspiring authors or authors that are already published. And it's always trying to figure out like how do we continue to make sure our stories are told the way we want them to be told. And something that you said that I want to make sure is not lost is that you were like, look, before you start the illustration, I need you to research the
Mm-hmm.
story that I'm trying to tell, right? And I've never heard anybody say that actually. I've heard people say they looked at their illustrators like portfolio and looked at like previous works, and that was like, that's who I chose. But you were also like, I want you to understand just how beautiful our culture is overall. Like, I want you to understand that beautiful women come in all shades and colors and heights and noses and ears and all the
Mm-hmm.
things. I want you to look at families. You sent her pictures of your family. I think that that's so important because that's again us owning our stories and how it is perceived from those who buy it, but
Mm-hmm.
also like you said, like being able to like, hey, I want from the title to the illustration that you could fully see that this is the way I wanted this story to be
Yep.
told. So I love
Absolutely.
it. So we are actually at the part which I am super excited about. So if you are just joining us again, we are having a virtual story time talk with Dr. Tristen Brenaè Johnson. She is about to do her live reading at this time. During this time, you can be able to continue to put questions and comments or say hello as you're joining, and then we will continue our interview after the live reading. So I'm going to give you the stage now.
Perfect. Excellent. All right, everyone. So I am happy to share my story with you, and I hope you enjoy it. So, Black History Explorer, My Name, My Power, written by me, Dr. Tristen Brenaè Johnson, my partner, Dwayne Christopher Anderson, and then our son, Dwayne Trent Anderson. This is our copyright page. And again, this book is dedicated to our son, Dwayne Trent Anderson. You are loved, you are blessed, you are bold, Black, and beautiful. There are so many possibilities for you beyond your wildest dreams. Hi, my name is Dwayne Trent Anderson, aka Peanut, and I like to explore things. I like to play with new toys to see what they do. I'm trying to learn Spanish to open myself up to more opportunities when I'm older, but I really love exploring my Black history. I love knowing where I come from. Today, my love for exploring Black history starts with me. I'm going to explore how I got my name, Dwayne Trent Anderson, by talking to my mommy and daddy. I'm also exploring the importance of names we as Black people have. Do you want to explore this with me? Let's go. We'll first explore how I got my name. This is my mom and dad. My mommy's name is Tristen Brenaè Johnson, and my daddy's name is Dwayne Anderson, just like mine. But my daddy's middle name is Christopher. Mommy and daddy, today I want to learn about the history of my name and why our names are important. Well, son, you come from a long line of Dwaynes in our family. You're actually the ninth Dwayne. The name Dwayne Anderson starts with my father, Dwayne L. Anderson, who is the first Dwayne Anderson. My father then decided that he wanted to name all of his children Dwayne Anderson. Between my father, two brothers, and uncle, a long line of Dwayne Andersons were created. I then continued the tradition with you, son. Wow, that's amazing to be named after so many Black men, Daddy. And don't forget to capitalize the W. That's right. And how did I get the nickname Peanut, Daddy? Well, when your mother was pregnant with you, the doctor showed us an image of you on what's called an ultrasound. You were so tiny and shaped like a peanut. I love my nickname and my name, but all the Dwaynes aren't the only Black men I'm named after, right, Mommy? That's right, little peanut. Your middle name Trent comes from my daddy, Trent B. Johnson. I wanted you to be named after my hero to remind you of the strength and blood and power you have in your bloodline. You come from so many strong and resilient people on the Johnson side of our family, and we want you to feel connected to our family as much as possible. I love this. Mommy and Daddy, why are names so important to Black people? Son, names are important to people in our community because it grants us a sense of freedom over who we are. When our people were brought here from Africa long ago, our original names and culture were taken from us. Our people had to take on new names and new identities chosen by those who kept our people in bondage. Your mom's right, Peanut. When our names were changed, it made it harder to find other family members from our bloodline. Enslavers wanted us to distance ourselves from our true identity. When they took our names from us, they tried to break the bonds that we created among our people. And although our African names and our culture were taken from us, as the Black population grew, many enslaved Black people found ways to create their own new names. And then, after emancipation, newly freed Black people decided to take on new names as a symbol of their newly found freedom and identities. But some kept the names given to them by enslavers in an effort to find lost family members that they were separated from. Mommy, what does emancipation mean? It means that our people were legally set free from slavery. Yes, and because of that freedom, Black people gave their children so many unique and beautiful names as a way to reclaim their culture and heritage. Historians say that modern day naming practices are unique to the Black American culture. Wow, we come from power. Thank you, Mommy and Daddy, for teaching me about names. Wasn't that a fascinating story about how Black people got their names? I love learning about my own name and the powerful bloodlines I come from. Having our own ways of identifying ourselves is our power. They connect us back to our family. I feel the strength within me and the connections to both sides of my family with my name. Black kids, love your name. Love other Black people's names too. And learn how to say each other's names, even if it's hard for you to pronounce at first. I want all kids to know how special they and their names are. Thank you for exploring some Black history with me. See you later. I wonder what topic I'll explore next. Hi, my name is Dwayne Trent Anderson. And thank you all.
That was beautiful. I love it. I love it. I love it. Wow. So first and foremost, let's talk about how people can get this book, and then we'll start talking about what the things that I love that you highlighted in their story. So we'll put it in the chat as well, and I'll make sure that it's in the comments after this live. But yeah, share how can people get this for their home.
Yes, it is on Amazon. I'm working to see how I can get it into bookstores. So I'm still in that process. But right now it is on Amazon. I'm going to put the link in here for you all.
Awesome. And we can talk more about how we can get into some bookstores. That's what our whole conversation was last week
Yes.
with the authors. I think the thing that resonated with me the most was one, let's talk about, and I would love for us to talk maybe about our names, right? Like, because
Yeah.
I think that goes with this book. So when you said even learning how to say names and spell them correctly, because that matters. And
Yeah.
being Jarima, my whole life has been definitely a interesting, those have been my, my conversations with folks were just like how to pronounce my name, also how to spell my name. And then what happens when I feel cared for, when people care to learn how to say it correctly, right? And I think I do that same care to others, because it just says a lot about, I think, how you value the start of our relationship, right? When it's like, what did you say your name? Like, we're not gonna get to nicknames first. I first gotta know how to say my name correctly. Then
Mm-hmm.
talk about what my nicknames are. So
Mm-hmm.
so I think that that's so important. And then spellings, and I loved how you highlighted. Make sure the W is capital, right?
Yep.
Because again, it takes back ownership. And just the history. I'm always sharing. My background is education as well, and when we would talk about Black History Month and stories and family trees, I'm like, the story you should first, and the first history you should be aware of is your own family's tree, right? Because in that is going to lead you to so many different spaces. And so I loved how it was not just the message about the name, but also like the history behind the name. Like,
Mhm.
our last names are, even, how some have over time changed their last names because they understood the connection to maybe
Mhm.
a history that they no longer want to be tied to. But then also the power of still being tied to that history and changing what the narrative is about that last
Mhm.
name. So, um, and the last thing I would speak to, because I would love to hear the story behind your name, is, I am one of my really great friends have been on this journey of like our history. Like I did ancestry.com and
Wow.
talking to my grandmother who just turned 90 and just being like, man, I need to sit down and like listen to these stories because
Mhm.
so much of it resonates and makes sense of like who I am and the interests that I've had and like the decisions my family made. And
Mhm.
we didn't originate in Chicago, just understanding that lineage. And so I'll end with my name came from actually my mother growing up, there was a girl who was my aunt's best friend whose name was Jarima. And
Mhm.
she would always say, like, when I get older, I'm gonna have a daughter and I'm gonna name her Jarima. And so
Oh.
that's what happened. But now that I'm older, people will always ask me like what my name meant. And I didn't know because that was the story I was told until I met someone who's from Brazil. And they told me that my name is actually originated from Brazil and it's pronounced Hurima, right?
I'm
And it's
serious.
actually a very popular name. So and I've never met anybody growing up with that name, and I actually have never met the woman I was named after either. And when I looked that up, and she was like, and it's one of my favorite songs. So she sent me the link to this song, and all throughout the song, they're singing about Hurima, and it's like a flower in Brazil, and automatically I was like, wow, it gave meaning and context to my name, right? Where
Like a
for
whole different
a
perspective.
whole different perspective. When before I was like, I was named after a little girl my mom knew when she was younger. And now I'm like, wait, there's a whole continent of people.
Mhm.
If I go there, they're gonna have the same spelling, the same everything. And so
Mhm.
yeah, I would love to hear what's the story of Tristen. How did you get your name?
Yeah, so my name is actually my dad's name, just with some letters added and taken out. So as you heard in the book, that my son's name is Dwayne Trent Anderson. So Trent is my dad's first name,
Mm,
and so if you just take the I and the S out of Tristan, you got Trent. And then my middle name Brenaè is a play on his middle name Bernard. And
mm,
then of course Johnson. And then but all of my dad's children, so me and my brother, we have the same initials as my dad, TBJ. And so my brother decided to keep the same initials for his children, except for one.
mm,
So they all have the initials TBJ. And then my niece, my oldest niece from my brother, has my middle name. And then my youngest nephew has my brother's full name with my brother's middle name is Trent, which is sorry, is Brent, which is a play off of Trent. So my dad just found ways to incorporate our name, and so I wanted to make sure that I continued that with my son. Even though my son's first name is going to be named after my partner and his family, which is great. I still wanted to ensure that I kept the legacy of my dad's naming practices in my son's name as well. And so we have that collaborative naming process. So you got the power from your dad's side of the family, you got the power from your mom's side of the family as well. So we wanted to make sure that our son knew that he had that he just comes from great men in his family as well. So
I
yeah.
love it. I love it. Me and my brother also share the same initials with my dad. So
Mhm.
prior to me getting married, so I was like, should I have changed my name back? But no, but we were all J and N. So
Mhm.
yeah, so that's really really awesome.
Mhm.
Um, let's look at the next thing. So I always want to. You shared a little bit about the process with the illustration. I would love if you have any tips to aspiring writers, right? Because I know you shared a little bit about the time length it took for you to write your book, which I was like, that's pretty amazing. But I think just like the process, and I mean, hearing your story, it made sense because you like been really gifted with the gift of writing, right? And so, what would be some of the tips you may give to maybe on the technical side, or even the getting it from idea to production that you would want to share with maybe some aspiring writers?
Absolutely. So I'll start with the idea to production. It's okay to like stop writing at some point.
Mhm.
Like I put a lot of pressure on myself in every area of my life, but especially the things that I write, because my writing in terms of like academically has been critiqued so heavily by all these people with PhDs and degrees. And it's like, okay, fine. But like creative writing has just always been something that I felt free doing, that I didn't have to worry about critique from anyone telling me, like, no, don't write about that, or this doesn't make sense. Like, I can just be my own thing and put my art out there. If you like it, cool. If you don't, it don't matter. I'm gonna write another book. Like that's fine. But don't be afraid to stop writing, because sometimes you're gonna get writer's block, and that's fine. You need to take a step away from it. Like that's how the best things get created. I was just telling my partner and like one of my friends the other day, I started writing a adult fiction book in 2016 and stopped writing it, and I pulled it back up the other day, and I'm like, yo, it's been like 8 years since I wrote anything on this book, and I'm reading it. I'm like, oh, it's really good. I should probably finish this. So it's like I stopped writing the book, but that doesn't mean that I won't pick it back up later, if that makes sense. So if you need to stop and take some years off, do it, because you just never know when you might get that fire to be like, okay, I think I'm gonna do this again. Or if you're writing something, take the breaks.
Mhm.
So that's my advice for the idea to publishing or to aspiration or whatever you want to call it. Like, because people are afraid, like, man, if I stop writing, I'm never going to pick it back up, or I failed. Like, no, you didn't. You're actually supposed to stop. You're actually supposed to stop. So, um, another advice is, if you know you have the gift, like, don't stop yourself from like trying to go all the way and just publish the book, write the book. And I say that because growing up, like I said, I've been writing since I was little. I could have published hundreds of books
Mm.
from the time I was 5, 6 years old. I'm now 34 years old. Like I could have published hundreds of books, but I let fear
Yep.
stop me. I let fear of people's critiques, or fear of, well, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how the publishing thing works. And I don't want to ask somebody too many questions. And I'm like, yo, I could have been out here famous,
Look.
like already, you know what I'm saying? But no, it's not even about the fame. Like I could have just been continuing to do something that I ultimately love in the end. And like my parents always told me, like, you need to be publishing, like you need to just keep writing. And I stopped because I cared too much about what other people were gonna say. However, I did flip it and I started writing in other ways before I got back to like children's book writing. I used to have a blog, and so I was writing blog posts,
Mhm.
and I was like I said, I've been writing academically, but I was finding ways to still write as creatively as I could, but it's always been children's books for me. And so if you feel that this is your calling, just do it. And do it because you love it, not because it's going to make you some money or anything. Just do it because you love it and you want to continue to produce art.
I love that. We do have a question that was just posed. It's the question says, so hey Facebook user, I can't tell who you are, but thank you for being here. It says, what advice can you give a writer to release the ideas in their thoughts? I wouldn't call it writer's block. It feels like fear or blockage. And then they follow up with, my apologies. Hello, Queens. Hello, hello, hello.
Can you put the question back? Okay, so what advice can you give a writer to release ideas? I wouldn't call it feels like fear or blockage. So kind of like I said, like I let fear stop me from publishing years ago, years and years and years ago. I've let fear stop me from doing a lot of things in my life, because when I was afraid of the outcome, what if it turned out bad, or what are my parents going to think if they don't like what I wrote, or if they don't like this, or what if somebody says this? And God didn't give us the spirit of fear. Like, so he tells us not to be afraid all of the time. And I don't know if you believe in God or whoever you believe in, or in a spirit Facebook user, but the spirit of fear is really a tool of the enemy, right? Like, they don't want us to excel. They let, the enemy doesn't want us to think that we have the ability to go beyond our wildest dreams, right? So if you step outside of that box and don't live in that fear, the writers are going to come. The writing is going to come. But also taking that time to step away from it. Like, if you've been working on something and you're feeling like you're blocked, step away from it. Go do something else. Go cook. Go eat. Go work out. Like, go hang out with friends. Take a week off, a month off. Like, just leave it alone, because you need your mind to regroup as well. So those are, just my advice. Like, you have to, like, think about, what does the other side of fear look like? What if it does work out? And not if it, what if it doesn't work out? What if it does? Then what?
Yes, I love that. Some I would add, ditto, yes, all of that, is that there's a book that I love reading, and it was a book that someone suggested a while ago, and I read it last year, and now it's become like a staple. I refer back to it all the time. It's called The Four Agreements. I don't know if you ever read that
I've
book.
heard of it. I haven't read it.
So the reason I love the book is because I think it adds to this conversation of, so the premise of it is that we are products of things that we've agreed about ourselves, right? And so over time, there are certain things that whether it's by the way we were raised, maybe like bad experiences, maybe it was a conversation, or like the imagery. Like, that's why I think Black stories are so important, because many times that's true. You can't believe that you could be something you've never seen, right? So you like agreed that this is for them, this is not for me, or whatever the case may be. But the book really talks about, like, how do we change the things that we agree about ourselves, right? And I bring this up because I think that when we talk about um the fear of writing, sometimes we've just agreed that there's just certain things I'm just not good at, or there's just some things that aren't for me, or no one wants to hear this story. And we believe that because we believe that no one likes to hear us anyway. Right. So I agree that I don't have anything to benefit. So so I don't say it, or I don't speak up. And
It's
so
internalized racism.
right. Say it one more time.
I said it sounds like internalized racism.
Internalized racism, right? This idea that there is this other, and then there's me, and I'm not a part of that. And I think that so many times, going back to us reclaiming our power of our name, we have to reclaim our identity, right? In our spaces. I think even for myself, that book was so freeing, because I grew up very majorly being like the the child that don't rock the boat, right? And so that sometimes makes you like don't want to disappoint others. I don't want to say something that someone might get upset about, or blah blah blah, because I have this agreement of what I do and what I don't do, right? And agreement of like what makes me uh be loved or valued and all these things. And then you grow up and you realize, man, like that's such a confining space to be in, because I don't allow myself to explore all the pieces of me. And ultimately, everyone else may be satisfied with this image of me versus myself being satisfied with myself. And so I say that because there is no spirit of fear, because the whatever God has created you to do and say and be, the world deserves to hear that, right? And so many times the reason we're not doing it is not because of the voice that matters that tells you that you can do it, is because we're so worried about like what others are going to say, the critiques and all those things. And so I would hope you look at this as a way of like reclaiming your voice, reclaiming your power. And the blockage might actually just be your own agreement of like, I can't do it, where you just have to change that mindset. You know what I mean?
I need to write that book down, The Four Agreements.
Yeah, someone just said it in the chat, like, can you add that book? So yeah, The Four Agreements. And then they actually just wrote a second book called The Fifth Agreement. And yeah, it's all really good. So The Four Agreements, I'm gonna go ahead and put that in the chat. And so as we are again coming towards the end, but if you do have more questions, please let us know. I want to ask, you talked about, the story and like how you could have had this whole catalog of books, but what is next for you, right? Like, do you see more coming from you in regards to your writing, and what do we have to look out for?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Um, the Black History Explorer is going to be a series. So
Mm.
Peanut will be back exploring other topics soon, and so you can be on the lookout for that. Right now I'm still trying to push this one out, but it will be a series. Like, so at the end of the book he says, I wonder what I'll explore next. Like, it's a setup to say, like,
Mhm.
something else is coming. So that's definitely coming. I'm probably going to finish that book I started writing in 2016 at some point. I really want to just continue down the path of writing. I think that's my calling. I believe that's my calling, and I believe that it's going to work out for me.
It will.
Yeah.
It has no choice to. Um, my question for you as we are coming towards the end, think about like what your closing thoughts may be, but um I have these conversations all the time, but it is Women's History Month. And so the question I've been asking quite a few people as I talk to, whether online or just in life, who is a woman who has impacted your life? Like, who's someone that you feel like has really shaped who you are today?
Easy. My mom.
Hmm.
And I say that because she says all the time, like, oh, like, I didn't, go and get all these fancy degrees and all this stuff, and I'm just blah blah blah. But I'm like, Mom, if you think about all the things that I've done, like everything that I've created, like my creativity comes from you. Like,
Mm-hmm.
she says words that I've never heard of before, and I got all the degrees, and I'm just like, Mom, where you be saying these words from? But she's an amazing cook. She can sew. She's a crafter. She's an organizer. I call my mom and I'm like, Mom, like, does this make sense? Like, and
Mm.
I'm 34. Like, I'll call my mom about everything. Mom, I got a question. Like, right, like, she's been there my whole life. So of course she's somebody who's impacted my life, and I think has yeah, I wouldn't be me without her. So I wouldn't even be here without her. So everything
Exactly.
everything I am is my mom.
I love that. So, closing thoughts. Do you have any closing thoughts? It can be about the main theme or story you want to get people to get from purchasing your book, because we are all going to purchase it. Is it anything that you would want to share just with the community at large? And again, go to Amazon to purchase her book. We're going to end out with her saying again how you can get it, but just any closing thoughts as we are concluding our interview.
Yes, I was trying to put the link in the chat, but it's not working for me. So I don't know if you could go to Amazon and search the book real quick and
Yep,
put it in the chat.
I got it.
But yes, it would greatly I would greatly appreciate it if y'all picked up a copy of the book, or two or three, not just for your own children, or if you don't have children, someone you know who has children. Find a way to get me to come to your school to do an author talk, or if you have connections to any school districts. I did an author talk, a couple author talks back in February about the book, and some book readings. And you can contact me on my website, the Tristen Johnson LLC.com. Tristen is spelled with an E, not an A. But it's also the Tristen Johnson LLC at gmail.com. So if you want to reach out to me directly for any questions about the book or the link, or getting me into your schools, feel free. But yeah, I just say continue on your journey if you're looking to be an author, or if you know someone who aspires to write, just continue on your journey. Um, this world, this life, and this journey is a marathon. It never ends. And so if there was an end point, there wouldn't be any more creativity. So continue to push.
I love it. So I just want to say thank you, Tristen, so much for this time on this Saturday, for you to have this conversation with us. Thank you for everyone who was watching live and your comments and being able to share. If you watch this later, if you look in the comments, and even now, I have put the link to Amazon where you can go and purchase the book, also her website, so you can stay in contact. I think that it's so important, you all, that we understand that the first story that our children and we even ourselves should be familiar with is our name. And so this book, I believe, just really allows us to open the door to so many other conversations. So we look forward to seeing the series that comes out of Dr. Johnson, but also more importantly, I hope that you all use this book as a way for you to share the beautiful stories of your family. So again, we will have another virtual story time next month. But I would like to thank everyone for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
Jarima, can I just say real quick?
Of course.
It's just one E in the Tristen Johnson LLC. Instead of so I guess I did enunciate the,
Right, I
but
thought you were like, I got
but I was saying the
you.
like the Tristen Johnson LLC, the Tristen Johnson LLC at gmail.com. And then the Tristen Johnson LLC.com. Yeah.
I got you.
And the same on Instagram as well, everybody.
So we're going to correct that right now. JohnsonLC@gmail.com. Cool, cool. We got it. So you all please connect. And again, do you do in person and virtual visits?
Yes, I do. Yes,
Okay.
I do.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. So again, do not let location be an issue as well. So again, she will be able to join you virtually as well. So again, thank you all for tuning in and see you next time.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
No problem.